Hey guys, Rob from Georgia here with you, aka VHS82 apostrophe, with my ongoing A Closer Look into the world of the X-Files with Season 4's Episode 4, Unruhe, German word for unrest or restlessness. German will play a key role in this episode. First drops October the 27th, 1996, which, by the way, interesting, 44494. They all sort of go together here in this. It's weird. Hopefully I don't forget that. But there's some expired film that Scully will, she makes an observation of and tells the pharmacist that he's got some expired film he uses for passport photos, and it's dated 494. So there you go. Season 4, Episode 4, April 94. Funny how all those numbers add up like that. Anyways, directed by Rob Bowman, who we're not strangers to with the X-Files, but Vince Gilligan. Just watched a short little interview with him on here. By the way, of course, working from this beautiful set of the X-Files, and wouldn't do it any other way, right? Physical media matters, as they say. Vince Gilligan, responsible for writing 30 episodes spanning seasons 2 to 9, which include one of my favorites, my wife's favorites, Bad Blood. But also, you might not know, he wrote Hancock with, what's his name there, from 2008. Responsible for 62 episodes of Breaking Bad, which is pretty awesome. And directed, actually, 2 episodes from the X-Files, from season 7 and 9. Ron Stannett, our cinematographer here, always got to shine a light on that guy, from Home, if you remember that stellar episode. So this is interesting. The one guest appearance here to really shine a light on is, of course, Pruitt Taylor Vince. Now, you may know him simply if you are waiting for the new Superman movie. He is apparently Pa Kent in that one. But here he is our main antagonist, Gerry Schnauz, which is based on a true, loosely based on a true character in his, or a true person in history. But Pruitt Taylor, man, it's like, I'm like, where did I know him from somewhere recently? He was Otis in The Walking Dead early on, has that unfortunate being taken out by Shane, if you remember. But Pruitt Taylor, man, he was in, man, his filmography, man, spends like 117 credits, man. It is crazy. Just a few: Angel Heart from 87, Mississippi Burning from 88, Jacob's Ladder, Natural Born Killers, 94. Got some, man, I'm telling you, some stellar work there. Unruhe, the cinematography is absolutely beautiful. The opening scene. So what you got here in the opening scene is Mary LaFontaine, her significant, I don't know if they're married, they could be married, or if it's their boyfriend, but anyways, there's sort of in sort of embezzling or racket where she works at a place where she can intercept credit cards without a signature, and he and her together, that's their way of earning money. Well, in the opening moments of this episode, they stop at a pharmacy. It's raining. It's actually just really, it's just beautiful to look at. Some great photographing there from our guy Ron. And so she goes in. He tells her right off the bat, she says, "I'll be back in 10." He says, "Be back in 5." And but so he's got to roll around the card to the backside just because, they're in this. I think at this point he may know the police are on, and so I think they're looking at just getting out of the country. So she goes in there to get her passport. Well, takes the picture and all, and realizes she doesn't have a cash, so she has to, tells the guy out, older guy in there, which also plays a part in the true story interestingly enough. And so she goes on around back. Well, unbeknownst to her, she's being followed by our main antagonist. And I think as she's about to hit the stairs to start coming down, or maybe she's already down, he passing her, jabs her with something. We'll come to know it's twilight sleep, just a form of knockout drug that we've learned his father, who was a dentist, used, and that's where he gets the idea from. A father that we also learned was probably abusive, who drove his own sister to suicide. Just an absolutely messed up situation. And so she's kind of stumbles her way to the car, pleading for her boyfriend. Of course, she finds him dead. He's had something rammed into his ear. And so he's sitting there dead. She just falls into the pavement. And that is the shot that's so incredible to look at. She's just laying there. The rain is falling on her, and there's already a level of water on the ground, and just the lighting. And then our antagonist pulls up, and it's from her perspective looking up, and it's just an amazing work with the camera, I think. And so she's abducted. Enter Mulder and Scully, right? Scully and Mulder. They realize pretty quick on, as they visit the pharmacy, the scene of the crime. They realize, looking at the photograph that the old guy had taken, when he pulls this is the old days, right? When he pulls the paper back and sees her like screaming in fright, and she's surrounded by all these weird little things that we'll learn are called hollowers, right? At least from Gerry's perspective, right? And so, so they see this, and, Mulder immediately brings to mind photographs, which I didn't even know anything about, but apparently Ted Sirius was a guy in the past who believed that he could basically project things in his mind onto pre-developed film. Which is interesting. So, part of this story is generated from that idea. The other part of the story, though, comes from a real-life guy named Howard Unruhe, who was a World War II veteran, Battle of the Bulge. He got the European Theater of Operations Victory Medal. Also received a Good Conduct Medal, which is kind of funny when you think about it. But he is the first mass shooter post World War II society. He ultimately, in like 12-minute spree, killed 13, injuring 3, ages, and this is disturbing, from 2 to 68. Apparently, there was an ongoing feud between him and the pharmacist that lived behind him. He apparently would use his backyard to get to his apartment, and the pharmacist kept on telling him, stay out of my yard, stay out of my yard. And finally, I think he built a fence or something. Well, Howard just snapped, took his German Luger he brought back from the war, and in a fit of rage, just went on a 12-minute killing spree, including, I do believe, the pharmacist, which much of this was angst was tossed at. And so this character, Gerry Schnauz, is loosely built up on. Although there is a scene when he realizes, like, how did the FBI catch on to me so quick? And Mulder sort of gives, he sort of lets the cat out of the bag and tells him, well, you're leaving fingerprints everywhere for me. And, and Gerry's just kind of like confused, like, what do you mean? They've already apprehended him. I'll get to that, I guess. And so they're questioning him. And so he ends up showing him the picture. He says, and so Gerry had no idea that he had this gift, but a gift that was seemingly being turned against him without him even knowing. And so his reign of terror was going to be short-lived as a result of the fine work of our heroes, Fox and Scully, right? So anyways, you have the opening scene, and the credits roll. They're in, and they begin. Mulder is quick on this whole the answer to what we're looking for is found in these photographs, which is a really intriguing idea. Ultimately, he goes to take his picture to a place where it can be further examined. She ultimately follows a lead, having realized there's been another abduction. Eventually, Mary is actually found. The girl in question here in the opening scene will be found wandering along the side of a highway, having been lobotomized, but by someone who doesn't know what. Not that you want to be lobotomized by someone who does know what they're doing, but in this case, it's even worse. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's just jabbing an ice pick up and just really screwing. In his mind, he is freeing these people from what his perception of seeing them haunted by what he calls the howlers, demons of the mind or whatever. Eventually, he will see these in Scully, which will lead to a great finale of this episode. But when Mary is brought in and they run a PET scan on her, that's when they begin to realize, at least what's happened. There's another abduction. They're at a place, yes, the second abduction, they're at that place, and Scully makes the connection looking out the window at the construction site realizes, wait a minute here, we've got two construction sites basically tended by the same company, a German company. And this leads her specifically, to get the foreman who's in charge of the construction company and his day workers, and try to figure out if someone who's doing this has been at both sites. So Scully ultimately will follow a lead that leads her to a place where Gerry Schnauz is, right? And that is a phenomenal moment in this episode. So she is just friendly interrogation, he's up on these high stilts. It's really kind of creepy, but you find out in the interview with Vince that he apparently was only on these things like one shot. The rest of it had to be a stunt guy. And when he was up on it, he was actually had a line from him to the ceiling just to keep him still on the still. So it's one of those moments where Vince says, you write it out not thinking, there's no way they're going to be able to direct this probably. But in fact, they found a way to do it, which is great when the director Rob Bowman in this case, can look at the printed word, the script, and go, we can make that happen. And how? Well, we'll do it. Here's how we'll do it. So everything's coming together. Mulder has got a guy examining the photograph. They have found an image, which we'll find out, and buried in this photograph is Gerry's father. We'll also see another image, a shadowy figure that seems to be looming over the victim. And of course, Mulder is quick to read into that. And so when he reaches out to Scully real quick, Scully is in the presence of Gerry, not knowing this is the killer, the attacker. And as Mulder is saying, I think what we're looking for here is someone who apparently maybe is abnormally tall. And he's going on, and as of course she realizes, oh my God. And so she turns and she faces, of course she's got that look, and she can read his face, and he's starting to get nervous. And they have already heard the word Unruhe, and that was spoken by Mary when she was in the PET scan, right? So she says this word, and this triggers Gerry, and he flies with his stilts on and everything. And so she actually gets him, fires a warning shot, gets him to stop. She arrests him, finds the ice pick in his pocket. They bring him into custody, and that begins this whole interrogation of Mulder and the family history, the sister who commits suicide, he apparently beat his dad with an axe handle to the point where he was wheelchair bound for the rest of his life, rest of his short life. And Gerry is institutionalized, chemical imbalance, as he references it or explains it. And he's playing it off pretty cool, but until Mulder puts the picture in front of him, and everything he begins to just come unglued, and they realize they've got their guy. Now you think, great, end of show, right? They've got him in custody. Well, they go off, because I think at that point there's another victim. They go off, and he ultimately will escape his being held there. He'll kill the deputy or whatever, the guy that's there watching over him. He'll kill him as he's getting fingerprinted. Will basically be able to reach for his gun and shoot him. But his plan is abduct Scully. Now he has gone back to the pharmacy now that he knows what's giving him away. Although I don't know if he realizes it. I think he realizes the source of this is at that pharmacy. All right, so he goes back there to steal the camera, steal the film, everything. Ends up bludgeoning, not to death, but BCO guy, pretty good. So when Mulder and Scully show up at the latest crime scene, I think they get a lead or something, and they're about to leave and go check something out. And Mulder is waiting on. There's a booth that you can get your picture taken in, and he throws his money in. He just wants to see what might have been captured on film in this place from the last crime scene, right? And so she goes back to get the car, and as she does, of course, Gerry shows up. He's hiding underneath. Another great shot, hiding underneath, and injects her with this twilight sleep, this chemical, and of course abducts her. A little too late, Mulder gets the picture and realizes it's Scully in the picture, and realizes in a flash of a moment what's happening and runs out, but is too late. The vehicle rides off, and there becomes a race against time to find. And there is a clue in the picture. It looks like six fingers. What they end up being are tombstones. And they realize this goes back to where the cemetery where his father is buried, where he's been hiding out in an RV, where he has Scully. And so we'll head to the finale real quick. But real quick, there's a great moment in here a couple times where you get this. Ultimately you get Gerry speaking in German to Alice. And you don't know what he says because there's no English subtitles to match what he's saying. The subtitles are in German, right? But if you just take a quick picture of the screenshot or the screen, and you can easily translate it. So basically, his little bit of an exchange with Alice is as he's speaking in German. This is for you, and he's carrying like this old time sort of like bathrobe or whatever, and says it's like what she wore, probably referring to Mary, what he dressed her up in. And he says, soon, quiet, very soon. Now, later on, when he's got Scully abducted, there is this great exchange that happens from Gerry to Scully. So it's German to English, but then Scully turns on the German because she knows German, we find out, and Gerry goes into English. So it's just a great transition of language. And all we really get in the German that he speaks to her is in the beginning moments of the finality of this episode is he just says to Scully, it's all right. I'll help you. You will soon forget your restlessness. At that point, their exchange begins, and she is able to stall for time, not knowing just how close Mulder may or may not be, but with hope, right, that he is. And it's a race, and he gets there, they get there, and he sees the RV, and right before Gerry is about to perform the procedure on Scully, he hears something outside the RV. Of course, everything is soundproofed inside. Like this is going to be a long, ongoing process for him, which is coming to an end. And in the process, in the end of his exchange with Scully, he it seems like he does get a little confused, and so he brings the camera, he takes the photograph, or he's going to take one of her, but then he turns it on himself, takes it of himself, in which case seemingly sees himself laying dead. That's a foreshadow of his end that is coming, right? So Mulder basically bashes his way into the RV and very quickly kills Gerry. But that is it's one of the moments where, and nothing's ever going to happen to these two. Nothing's ever going to happen to Scully. But it's great writing, it's great directing when you put them in harm's way, and even on repeated viewings, there's still the tension there. You feel how close she really is to having something absolutely horrific happen to her, and you don't want that to happen to her, and so it always works. But this moment, usually when that happens in this series, there's a great moment where the two embrace each other, Fox and Scully, and comfort one another. But in this particular case, she is so shook to the core that ultimately she just, upon being freed from her bindings, she gets up out of the dentist chair, which he has taken out of his dad's old office, and she just walks towards the cold light of day that's coming in from the smashed in door now of the RV. She stops for a moment, she looks at the body of Gerry, and then she turns and she just walks out without there being the embrace that we're sort of common to. And you can tell. It's almost kind of like they sat there and thought out, like, how can we end this in a way that's a little different, but get the point across that she is shook. She really was shook to the core on this one. And it worked beautiful. Works perfect for this. And then we get one final moment with her as she's writing up her report, speaking to the idea of the only way to deal with this mess is to get into the minds of these monsters, but in so doing you allow the monsters to get into you, kind of thing. I think the quote's down there. I put in there. Yeah, so I think that's pretty much it on this one. It's a great episode. It is a great episode. I'm not even sure what the next one is. Oh, this is the last one on this disc, so got a brand new disc to jump into, which is always exciting. But yeah, so Unruhe, great episode, and I love it when language is spoken that if in these days it's so easy to interpret or have it interpreted for you. I mean, all you gotta do is take your phone and take the snapshot, and then like you're gonna copy paste the words. You get the option to translate, and then it just opens it up right up for you. I mean, it's like that easy these days with our phones and stuff. So back in the day, though, if you didn't know German, you had no idea what Gerry said. You just knew it was probably diabolical or something. I mean, it wasn't good at what he was saying. So that's the end of this one, episode 4. Ready for episode 5. I can't even think of what it is right now, but I'm sure it'll be good. As always, we end these things off with go Bills and go Dogs.
This is not a dream. Not a dream.
We might be useful to you.